This is the Digital to Dice podcast. That is our new music, and I am Dave.
I am Ron. Where'd we get that from, Dave?
I want to get a big shout out to Rat Pack Records, who gave us permission to use this song. Ron, fittingly enough, the song is called By the Numbers. What else would you use for a sports simulation and tabletop podcast, right? But By the Numbers.
Absolutely.
And
we could talk a little bit about more than who recorded the song, Dave.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite bands called Metal Church. I first saw them when I was a wee lad, Ron, back in like 85 or 86. They played a show up here in Boston. In fact, I still have the T-shirt hanging on the wall. Doesn't quite fit as well as it did back in 1985.
I have no clothing from the 80s.
I still do. And I just saw them about 6 weeks ago. They played up here in New Bedford, and I saw them again. And they got a new album out called Damned If You Do. And they have this song called By the Numbers. And I said, this would be perfect for the show. And I contacted them and Rat Pack Records, and they said, yep, you can use the song on the show. And I was like, thank you. That'd be cool. So that is our new intro. Yep, thanks to Rat Pack Records and Metal Church again. By the Numbers.
Awesome, and I bet you can find out on your favorite streaming media service.
Yes, you can. Yep, it's a brand new CD that just come out and the whole bit. So getting to the business at hand, we are the Digital to Dice podcast. You can find us digitaltodice.com is our website. That brings us up to brings to all of our podcast episodes. Facebook is up and running too. Facebook.com/groups/digital to dice. That's digital TODICE. And we have a voice and text line. If you want to send us a text, we might read it on the show. 978-751-DICE. 978-751-3423. And we had some feedback already, Ron, going back to episode 2. This is episode 4. We didn't say that. This is episode 4.
Yes, this is episode 4.
Okay, for those of you scoring at home. And on episode 2, the subject was when your replay project goes south, and PJet chimed in. And one of these is directed toward you. When you called me the biggest Seals fan on the East Coast, PJet chimed in and said, biggest Seals fan on the East Coast? Ahem. So PJet's
Does he say where he's from?
Well, it must be East Coast.
Well, maybe you're the biggest Seals fan in New England.
Maybe, yeah, we could narrow that down. I'm not exactly sure where PJet lives. He might even be in Canada, but maybe East Coast Canada. So
yeah.
And he also writes in and replied to when your replay project goes south. Had 2 replays that were a bit frustrating, but I stuck it out to finish them. 73-74 Seals were shootout. We're winning with Bob Champo in goal and not getting blown out in losses, which I attribute to California's low penalty totals. They do have low penalties. I've been playing a 73 Seals myself. And the other one was a 69 Mets replay with payoff pitch, in which they finished 81-81 and had just as much bad luck as the real Mets had. Good luck.
Good luck. Well, that team, Peach, can pitch like tomorrow, but their hitting is Punch and Judy, and they got to hit. I mean, it's going to be very hard on the tabletop to get them over to 100 wins. It can be done, but man, you got to slice and dice to get there.
Yeah, so he takes the Seals and the Mets. So that's boy, I tell you, that's.
They won the World Series that year. How the Seals did that, I'll never know. But
yeah, funny guy. And Kurt also writes in and says, love this, you guys. The program's a great idea, and this topic is quite helpful. And that was about when your replay goes south. Okay, now today's topic, unfortunately, last week, we had a pair of game developers announce that they were closing their doors. And we got a lot of feedback on that. Is between the Delphi forums and Facebook and some private messages to us. We got a lot of feedback. We're going to go over all that today. We're going to read some of the comments as well as some of our thoughts on that as we talk about, basically what was the state of tabletop gaming at this point right here, I guess is what we're talking about now. It's probably a topic that comes up all the time, but we're going to get to that. But before we get to that, Ron, let's talk about what we've been playing. Now, I know you got this huge project going on your YouTube channel, Retro Sports Network, and that is actually coming to an end, huh?
We start the World Series on Saturday. We just finished, or I just finished, the League Championship Series. I've been doing the 1982 season, started that back in January. We're down to the World Series. So are we 28, 30 weeks in? I got hurt and missed a week and took a vacation week because I hadn't done that in about 9 months. But, yeah, in about 30 weeks, I played about 85 games or so, and that includes the playoffs, so maybe even a little more than that. And we've reached the 1982 World Series, which involves none of the teams that made the World Series in real life. I've got the Expos, who swept the Dodgers in 3, and the Baltimore Orioles, who played and won a 5-game thriller over the California Angels.
Yeah, I think I watched a lot of those games on your YouTube channel there, and it went the distance, and it was a lot of fun. So that's a big project there wrapping up for you right there. It took all summer practically.
Yeah, well, it took all winter and summer, and in about a month we'll go through and start the next big football project. But yeah, we're down to two. We've done 2 long-term projects on the channel, and one is done, and the other one will be done in about 10 days, depending on how far the World Series goes. So
fantastic. You playing anything else besides that?
I'm playing some time travel tennis, still some roster card baseball, 67 Red Sox, and then figuring out what I'm going to fill the time with on my Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon slots between the end of the World Series and the beginning of football season.
Oh, cool. Is that it? Is that what you've been playing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I finished my first ever full season replay on Cards and Dice. I did it using the Mike Sealock 2-minute drill, and I did the 1983 football season. So before we think it's some big feat, it was a quick play game, okay, whereas you roll for defense and then offense and offense. So there's 4 rolls per game between the teams. It's all read off the cards. So I rolled for every game, set up the playoffs, played out the playoffs all the way to the finals. And instead of the Raiders beating the Redskins, it was the Dolphins beating the Redskins.
Revenges from the year before. That's not implausible either.
No.
You had, Miami beating the Raiders in the conference championship?
Yeah, what was kind of fun about that replay is that in Week 16, the Jets led the whole way in the AFC East. It was, for some reason, they had a good roll. They were getting good rolls, and they led that division from box to wire. And in Week 16, the Dolphins tied them, okay, in record. In week 15, the Dolphins won, and I think the Jets lost, and they were even, and then as luck had it, Week 16, they went head-to-head. Dolphins won that matchup, and that gave the Dolphins the division. So the Jets played the wild card game, which I think they won. Then they went to L.A. and lost. When the Dolphins then, I think they beat Pittsburgh, and then they went to L.A. and beat L.A. to go to the Super Bowl. So that's how that worked out. But what was fun about that replay is seeing a couple of the teams finished with the exact record they did in real life, and other teams finished a little better, and some teams finished a little worse, And that's what I really enjoy out of a replay is you don't want to see exact. You don't want to,
no.
At least myself, I don't want to see it. But then again, I don't want to see it too crazy either. I mean, Houston and Tampa Bay were both 2-14, I think, that season. Now, if one of them had won the Super Bowl, that would be a little much, I would say. You know what I mean? So you didn't want to see that. But I did see a little bit of variance, and I saw some similarities. And I was very pleased with that. And kind of sad, though, that it's over. It didn't take long.
Yeah.
It only took a few days. But even though it only took a few days, it was kind of sad when it ended. That it finished up. I was like, oh, what a bummer. It's over.
Imagine Dan Marino's career if he had won a Super Bowl his rookie year. How that would have all changed because he never won. They got close, I believe, the next year against San Francisco and got their tushies handed to them up in Palo Alto.
Yeah.
By the Niners, and that was as close as Danny ever got. Again, they returned, I think, the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and that was that was it. That was it. But I saw. I didn't watch the video, but I saw the final results this morning on Facebook, and those were realistic. Yeah, it was fun. I ended up playing on YouTube Live the other day. I think I played weeks 14, 15, and 16.
And I started to rush it. We had this massive storm come in. I think you got it too. This storm come in, and the sky turned black, and my phone was pinging. All the neighboring cities were losing power. And so I started to rush through this, and I think I made a mistake reading off the defensive instead of the offensive chart on one game. I don't think it really affected too much, though, in the season, but so I had to rush through that at the end, so I think I made that one mistake. But it was a fun time. I didn't do the playoffs on YouTube. I just did the playoffs out and posted a screenshot, but that was fun. And also I picked up Diggin Deep Golf, and we'll talk about Digging Deep in the news section here. But I picked up that, and that was actually quite fun. It's kind of strange, though, because, you saw what I was doing as far as experimenting with that game where you can play round by round, hole by hole, or shot by shot. And I found that the round by round was pretty spot on to what players were getting for scores. The hole by hole, I found you really needed an act of God to go under par playing hole by hole. And shot by shot, Tiger was 12 under. With 2 eagles. So I thought that was a little too easy as far as game.
It's a Goldilocks game. Sometimes it's too hot, sometimes it's too cold, and you got one version that's just right.
So I think if you mixed it up, if you played like maybe one round, just like roll the dice for the round score, and then maybe you played hole by hole for a while and switched over to shot by shot, you might have a good feel of what happened. That's kind of how I felt. But all in all, it was a fun game. It really was. I really enjoyed it. So Digging Deep Golf was a lot of fun. I also picked up I didn't get the hockey game, though. For some reason I didn't get the hockey game, and now it's too late to get it. But I did pick up Light the Lamp, which was their other hockey game that they advertised. And I picked up they only had a couple seasons I was interested in, so I picked up a couple of seasons there. So I'll be trying those out later as well. So that's basically what I've been playing. I finished up my product. You finished up your product. So what do you say we get to the news at hand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the big news, Ron, last week was 2 game developers closing their doors. Kind of side-by-side announcements. One was Digging Deep, and one was Ballpark. And
Ballpark's especially because he'd been in business for 61 years. That game was developed in 1958.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long time. And Digging Deep, which you talked about, was much more of a one-person show. He'd been around a while. It was over 10 years. I owned the tennis game, and I think that was about it. Just kind of someone who tinkered around and came out with a game to me that kind of was a good mix between a board, as in playing Monopoly or a Sorry game, and a sports sim. But certainly for fans of both of those, it's a big loss. Now, Rob had been sick for Digging Deep, had been sick for a while, bounced back, and I wish it was under better circumstances. He said, I had enough. And I know there's lots of he said stories for Ballpark, and I don't really want to get into that. But yeah, it's a big loss.
So what ended up happening is we got a lot of feedback from that. We posted on the Delphi forums, Facebook, and a lot of feedback came in, and we're going to read some of the comments here and maybe react to them a little bit. I'm going to condense them down a little bit, Ron. I don't want to read word for word. I'm going to just kind of pick up the highlights because there are a lot of comments here that I do want to go over. We're going to leave out names. We're not going to mention even first names. We had talked about maybe mentioning first names, but we're just going to read some of the comments.
Yep.
They're all in the public space, so we're not, breaking anybody's privacy here. Anybody that sent me private messages, I did ask if I could use it and got permission. So here goes. I will say, though, the underlying theme that I got about this, Ron, is that even though some people disagreed on some things, whether it's the state of tabletop or the future of tabletop or, how they play tabletop, people are very passionate about this. And people care quite a bit, even though they might disagree. Okay, so the underlying theme I got from all these comments is people care, and I think there's a general frustration about the future of this. Is that we're let's look at it realistically. We're a bunch of old people, and I include myself in that. And even though I'm a new cards and dice player, I'm in my 50s. And that is the group of people that mostly play these games is my age and probably a little older, and some have been playing a long time, and so the younger kids playing this game. I mean, is this the customer base are they going to get new blood, so to speak, into this thing? And so how does that bode well, for an older crowd? In fact, I think I asked you this when I first started playing several months ago, and even the community that we were involved in. It's like, we're all older people here playing this game. What does the future hold? And not that I want to wreck what I'm doing now, because I'm enjoying playing the heck out of these games, but you got to wonder, in such a niche crowd, it's an older crowd, what's going to come up down the line. But anyway, so let's get to some of the comments and we'll react to them here in no particular order, okay? Let me see. First off, the games that ceased production are not well known to me. Rob at Diggin Deep, however, was a great guy and spent time with me discussing his games, one which I purchased. I tried some of the other games and did find one that I really liked. That having said that, though, I have zero interest in today's games and thus won't purchase any type of card set post-2008. I'm not one to say tabletop gaming is going away. I will always play cards and dice, but I do agree the younger generation will not be as invested as we are in table games, and that does not bode well for sports gaming in general. And, I kind of see some of that in there because I don't really play anything modern myself. I play the 70s and 80s, maybe some 90s, and, maybe if there's a Bruins team or a Patriots team that, won the Super Bowl or the Cup, I might pick up a season there. But, I don't play anything new myself, so I hear that. Another one here. I, for one, will play cards and dice as long as my eyes hold up. The forums have allowed me to share my gameplay, and I've become friends with several members of the forum. And we share more than just games, and we help each other through rough times and share happy news as well. One way to save the hobby is to support the game companies. And I do agree with that. Support the game companies. He said he spent $200 on one game and a several set of cards, trying to support the companies there. Because we can't force the hobby on the youth. They're basically doing the same thing we are, just in another format. Probably meaning the electronics and the mobile devices and the consoles and the whole bit. Many of the more popular games have gone to PC versions. But he says, for one, he prefers the brick-and-mortar version. So support your game company, speak positively, encourage others to join in, and be a fountain, not a drain, when it comes to the future. And that was very well put by that person right there.
This is exactly.
Okay. Well, let me see. The card show I attended in Frisco, Texas, confirmed what I thought. The majority of evenly fairly hardcore baseball fans are not familiar with tabletop baseball. Most think that went the way of the dinosaur years ago. And he says, I designed a game that looked different and not difficult to learn. And I think there are plenty of sport fans out there who would play it. They just don't know it exists. And he says the sales he made at the conference were basically to fans who were excited to be able to play against their friends on the tabletop. And he says, I think that is the market. But the market is not us. Some baseball sims would have a very hard time hitting that market. I think it's a different kind of game, at least more accessible than some of the other ones. So this person created a game that was a little bit different. He thought that maybe that was the way to go with the younger crowd. Let me see. Someone mentioned how the genre is fragmented, and I think that is true. With up to 6 new games coming out each year, folks can be choosier and choosier about what they want. Some want as much accuracy as possible. Others prefer fun and quick play over accuracy. There is the infinite in between, or balance between those two aspects. So he's talking about accuracy versus quick sims is what this guy's talking about. He said he's put out 3 different baseball sims. One was highly detailed, and then one was a quicker game. And he said that's why he keeps releasing these different ones, because he doesn't know what the market's going to bear. Some people want the accuracy, some people want the sim, some people want the quick play. And myself right now, I'm enjoying the quick play. So I see what he's saying.
Is that someone with the name of Windsor in their screen name?
I don't know. I didn't have to take the screen names with me.
Okay.
I'm just kind of paraphrasing. I'm trying to skip over some of the games that I mentioned there. But he put out 3 different games and trying to fit the 3 different audiences, it sounds like there. So he says, he's talking about, the time factor. People want accuracy, but they don't have the time for 45 minutes or an hour to get that accuracy. So that's why he released a title that was faster playing. And I like that idea. And that's how the Diggin' Deep golf was, whereas you could play the round by round, the hole by hole, the shot by shot. And so you had 3 modes of play. And I think that's a big deal, too, is the time, too. A lot of people talked about the time it takes to play these games. And quick play games are fun, but you don't have the meat on the bone. So to offer both or 3 ways to play, I think, is fantastic. Let me see, moving on here. There is a difference, too, between tabletop games and Sims. Games reach a wider audience. One example is Bottom of the Ninth. I have not heard of Bottom of the Ninth.
That's another new one for me, yeah.
Okay. It had success right away, but it's totally a game, not a simulation. One that casual non-baseball fans would even pick up. So that being a game, not a sim, so he's trying to say the difference between games and sims. And so a sim...
Yes, I would, yeah.
Yep. What happens with sims, you can't please everyone. One person will say that a sim is too basic, and another will say that a sim has too many lookups. Okay? And then the third group, the sim will hit the sweet spot. If a designer tries to tweak the sim to have less lookups and make that group happy, he makes the gamers that like the game as is unhappy. And so, again, we're talking about going back and forth, trying to please different groups of people in these games here. There will always be more cool sims coming up, but yeah, it's likely that the younger generation that have been exposed to iPhones from age 2 may not even know what dice are. That's a good point by that person right there. And let me see, another one here. The state of our union is strong, uproarious applause, he says. In my opinion, we're still in the golden era of tabletop sports gaming. Let me see, starting early in the PC and internet technology age, this genre of gaming took off. All of us nerds now had a way of communicating with each other quickly and easily, sharing ideas and files, swapping and selling games, creating games, and helping others coming up with game innovations. And that's actually a really good point, too, is that with the computers and the internet, it went from, just table board games that, you had to send through the mail. And, now you can, like I say, communicate instantaneously. You can put up videos and show other people and with the internet. And so that's a very good point this guy made here.
I had read that one and agree with most of what that person said 1,000%. Hit the love button, thumbs up if it was Twitter. Yeah.
Yep. And he goes on, it's been an amazing run that has greatly benefited the gamer, and I'm guessing many of the gaming companies. Even some guys with great ideas and no capital could now put their ideas in motion and start their own companies. He feels things have never been better, and I feel they will be this way for 2 to 3 decades to come. And he says there are a ton of us 50-somethings, I include myself in that, and probably a lot of 40-somethings that will be around for many years. We have money.
I hope so.
Yeah, we have money. Even though if we don't have the time to play, we still make purchases. I can vouch for that. I make a lot of purchases and might not get around to them as well. Let me see. We like the cards and dice and we like the PC games, and we buy them all. And he said it doesn't mean to be flip. He knows people, not everybody can do that. But, I do agree. I have PC games and I have cards and dice games as well. Let me see. The last 10 to 15 years has seen many more gaming companies and new game designs come and go. I say more come than go. So it's premature to sound the alarm bells. Now, I would say that's probably true, but I think it's something we need to be concerned about. Let me see. Reading on here, this is a long one. So personally, I personally feel like things are just fine in our little community. It's obviously not a growing industry. I would even admit it's on decline, but it will be a long, slow decline that will keep all of us reading this today happy for many years. So, he had some hopeful thoughts there. Let me see.
He's designed some things himself too.
Okay. Let me see. So much to consider throughout our history. Things run their course. A man could make a nice living delivering ice until refrigerators come on the scene. As future generations grow up, they will determine the fate of tabletop games, and seemingly they've decided they don't care. They prefer Madden, Xbox, fantasy football, and other pursuits I'm not familiar with. Icemen had to find other professions. Pittsburgh reshaped its image as a tech and medical town. The TV repair owner finally closed his door. Times change and things evolve.
And so when you watch the Brady Bunch with a niece or nephew, would they even know who Sam the Butcher was? I mean, that's pretty much the same thing. I mean, my mother always got it from the grocery store, but my grandparents bought their meat from a butcher.
We have some butcheries around here, but we not quite like the Brady Bunch. I
mean, well, I would hope not. But when's the last time somebody hand cut a roast for you? I mean, my wife gets something from a special cut once a year at Christmas. She gets some ground pork to make a pork pie. Okay, just using that as an example of we still eat meat. We still buy roast, we still buy steaks, we still buy hamburger, but it's not something that you don't go to the butcher to buy that anymore. It's in a styrofoam or plastic package at your local grocery store. You're still consuming the product.
Right, yeah, so it's not as personal as it used to be.
Right.
Okay, moving on. I think more than the industry dying, we're seeing the industry changing to more of a digital platform. And that's kind of what I was thinking here, is that it's not going all digital, but I think you have to welcome that. I think you have to welcome in the computer. I think you have to welcome in mobile devices. And that's the only way you're going to bring in some of the newer people, the younger people, because they're used to that. And I think a combination of the two is nice. Like when I'm playing, that Mike Seelock football that I talked about, right? Mm-hmm. I could sit there in the tabletop and roll dice and write down the scores, but I went into Excel, and I used the ball roller app, and I had two Excel files open, one with the score sheet, one with the team cards, and the ball roller. So I was playing a cards and dice game, but I was doing it on a digital platform. And that way there, I was able to share it live on YouTube. And so there's kind of the playing the cards and dice, but on a digital platform. And so this person makes a great point.
Yeah, I mean, cards and dice games aren't real conducive to those of us with four-legged kitty pets and others who might have children.
This is true. You do need a table to set up and play on. And sometimes I find that instead of spreading out here on the table myself, I'll just fire it up on the spreadsheet and play with the ball roller app and the whole bit, which rolls the dice for you is what that is. And moving on. So how many of us out there have children who play any tabletop sports games? That, to me, is a key to this hobby continuing. The new generation is not going to pick up board games like we did. There are and will be too many other things for them to do. This will be technology-driven. So another person talking about the digital platform. So there will be many games out there that will either be in attics or just thrown away. So I think this hobby will just fade away. By the way, I am in my 60s. So here's one not-so-hopeful opinion. Okay. Let me see. Someone above mentioned the dichotomy of board gaming world thriving while the sports sim world declines. It's spot on. And that's a good point there. Board gaming is in a little bit of a renaissance, but it's not the sports board gaming.
Oh, you got any more to read, or can I go ahead and launch onto that?
Yeah, no, I
want you to go ahead and finish other people's comments before I...
Sure, okay, yeah. So this person says, I run a board gaming club for the last 16 years, and but it's on the decline right now. He says, so why the difference? There are a few reasons, but mostly it spawns from one. Sports sim gaming is usually a solitaire event. So this guy thinks it's a solitaire event. And the getting together
more so now, yeah.
Getting together in the groups is not so much anymore. Let me see. There aren't many decision points, no strategy, no negotiation. All the reasons board games are thriving is because they offer those factors. Sports gaming is the experience, the I wonder what would happen if component, and that's mostly successful playing solitaire.
Really? There's plenty of decisions to be made in sports games, depending on the game.
Yep. I've long said the only sports game I really enjoy playing face-to-face is football. And that would make sense because you got one team on the ball, making plays, and the other team putting their defense. So I can see how football would be good like that. So once you establish that it's mostly solitaire, then all the other reasons come into play. Computer gaming is faster and technically cheaper. Okay? Cards are more expensive. Yes, you give up the feel of the game, but you get so many quicker results. Combine that with the general decline of interest in sports currently, and it seems even the new generation of solo gamers is going to be far more likely to not play a sports game. I'm not sure anything can really turn this tide. Now, let me see. So how many of us out there have children who play any tabletop sports games? That makes a good point, too, because this is so important.
Yeah, my cat refuses to play. I've tried.
My son likes playing Baseball 2018 on his Nintendo Switch, but is frustrated that the computer is so good and that the game is not all that realistic. He goes, I'm going to introduce him to tabletop baseball soon. If that doesn't catch, I'll introduce him to one of the PC translations and hope that catches on. It's really hard now. Most kids have a phone, some gaming platform like Xbox or PlayStation or the Switch, and they use them excessively. Maybe if his son sees him playing, he'll enjoy some tabletop baseball. So he's trying to introduce his son to tabletop baseball and pulling him away from the electronics. Let's see. Here's one here. Unfortunately, a lot of people seem to have their heads in sand when it comes to this hobby. Very few new customers, and an aging customer base means we're close to the end of sports tabletop gaming. Like I said, when people are clamoring for one particular company to bring back a horse racing game, they should be closer to closing up shop completely than bringing back old games. There will come a day when some of the big companies are not making money anymore and will go away. Another one, let me see, or all will have transitioned to being solely computer games. It's not so much the hobby itself is dying, but the analog portion of it may be. That's a good point, too. Let's see. The recent Play.con in Denver proved that the next generation does care some. They had quite a few kids show up with their dads, enough to have a kids' baseball tournament, and also participated in a lot of other gaming as well. While the vast majority are more interested in video games, there still could be a niche out there that will follow in our footsteps, we can hope. And let me see. It's got to the point where people are stocked up on what they want, don't have the room or time for any more, etc. These guys that supply these products can't rely on new current seasons to sustain their businesses. When a certain PC game provider was in its infancy and growing, I always wondered what would happen once everybody had what they needed. That's a good point, too. That's
a very good point.
Once you have the season, no matter if it's PC gaming or cards and dice, once you have the seasons you want, and a lot of these older people like myself, I'm really not that interested in some of the newer seasons. Just personal preference. You want to play the stuff you had as a kid is what I'm kind of getting at. So you wonder, he made a good point about how can you sustain yourself trying to sell new seasons if people just don't want it, or at least not everybody wants it. The first thing was to put together specific packages, all-time sets, etc. Now those things have been on the market for a while, and I'm seeing some unbelievable sales and giveaways, etc. It boils down to new blood in the game. I'm thinking we have reached that point. It boils down to no new blood in the game, and I'm thinking we've reached that point. I already felt old, but now more. Yikes, this hobby seems to have turned a corner after such an exciting period of growth. Let me see. Last night I went to the website to order some legacy sets and find out that this company is not selling printed sets anymore. I won't mention the name of the company. A lot of us are old for sure. My first tabletop game was with, I'll mention this one, Kadako's All-Star Baseball in 1968.
Cadaco.
Yep. Okay, I have not heard of that one.
Spinners. You used a spinner.
Yeah. You see,
imagine the fights with that. It's a home run. It's a strikeout. I hate you. Mom loves me more.
Yeah. You see a lot of that. The spinner games on eBay. They're really fun.
They're great.
The spinners don't work anymore.
They didn't work ever, but
yeah, right.
It's a great concept.
Right. Regarding baseball, cards and dice slow death, I think there will be a small but dedicated group of gamers for quite a while. I kind of agree. The larger companies producing and selling games are another matter. Although there are like 30 cards and dice baseball games currently available, I might even think there's more than that if you really look at it. Probably only a handful of their owners make more than beer money. As long as they can stay afloat on a shoestring budget, they will. There has been something of a table gaming renaissance in recent years, but not in sports games. A lot of people have been saying that in the comments, and even some of the comments I'm not going to read. They think there's a table gaming renaissance where people like to hold the things in their hand, the pieces in their hand, but it's just not sports games. Let me see. His personal case in point is a table gaming store within walking distance with all these tables, large inventory, but it's all fantasy and role-playing games. No sports games to be found. And
all right, may I launch in, or have you got more?
I got a couple more. I'm just going to pick off here real quick. Here, we're down to our last few. Interesting stat. This one guy came across on his Facebook group. Out of 2,055 members, 36% are 45 to 54. 36% are 55 to 64. So that's 2/3 are between 45 and 64. 15% are 65 and older. And so that's 87% are 45 or older in his group. And 90.
Yeah, but we have disposable income.
Yep, 99% are men. Let me see. Let's see. In response to that, pretty much what I expected. Younger generation just isn't into the cards and dice game we grew up with. And one other guy wrote, I really don't care if cards and dice games go out of business. I have my stockpile of cards. And his interest in post-1990 baseball is zilch. So he has all the cards he needs. And that's been another theme, too, in this run is once you have the seasons you want, you're not spending any more money with that group of people, that company, okay?
Yep.
Let me see. There is zero or near zero demand for sports board games in the stores that carry board games and cater to board games. And there's none one talking about the war games and stuff like that. None of them would order them because they would rarely get any requests for them. So, yeah, so we talked about, buying the board games in the store, and that just doesn't happen anymore. Let me see. Let me finish up with a couple of here. If you think about it, pretty much all the game companies for sports board games are one-man shows. And any of them can fold at any given time. Another writes, yeah, but it shows how lucky we are when you think how dedicated these people are to give us the games they do and provide the customer service that they do. I've gotten great customer service in most of these small operations. It's pretty amazing, but it hurts when we lose a couple of companies. And I agree with that. It hurts when you lose anybody, and the smaller companies sometimes give you great one-on-one customer service. Last couple here. It depends on a designer's goals also. I don't really see baseball sims as a business. I prefer it as a hobby. It has to be kept fun because it is a huge time investment. This genre comes with so many expectations. People want accuracy, fast play, fun, and everything in one game. But everyone's idea of what that is unique. That's a very good point. Everyone has a different idea of level of accuracy required and time to play. That is why we have seen so many different titles come out. There will always be something for everyone in Dice Sims. And I like that point because I've really researched a lot of different games and I've played a lot of games. And you're right, there's something for everybody out there. Someone's going to find the sweet spot for you with their game. And let me see. There are so many companies and games. I'm guessing there will be some shakeout in the near to short-term future. What is the future of the hobby? I don't see one. I'm just hoping it lasts another decade or so. And then lastly, there's no new blood. The millennials I know prefer group-type games, not sports-related. Other need these console games and their thumbs. And that wraps it up, I believe. Let me see. Then there's some discussions we'll get into later about solitaire.
We're running about 40 minutes now, so
yeah. So we're gonna run. We'll do that another time. So there's a whole bunch of comments here on solitaire gaming versus group gaming. So we'll get to that another time.
Let me. A lot of that I agree with, but let me dispel the notion that there's no interest. There are millions and millions of guys who sit there every football season and do weekly fantasy, daily fantasy, and season-long fantasy. And if you're playing fantasy football, if you're already into the numbers, if you really care that Odell Beckham Jr. gets 7 catches, 143 yards, and scores 3 touchdowns, and that the Ravens defense only gives up 4 points, you're already predisposed to some of how these games work anyway, which is how Stratomatic is trying to go through the future now with their Baseball 365. And so you have a base of millions of younger men to pick from. Anyone who does the Madden, the NHL, they care about today's players. You may not care about today's players. I may not care about today's players. But to throw the baby out with the bathwater that says it's not important is a bunch of, it's just kind of short-sighted. A lot of people care about today's players. I mean, look at all the attention this week for the baseball trade deadline. I mean, you who don't follow pro basketball were inundated the week when the NBA free agency started because you didn't know where Chris Paul was going to go to, or Kyrie Irving, or anything like that. These kids do care, and none of these companies market to them. It's not a wasted effort. Someone in the comments said, we can't find the games in the store because no one's asking for them. Well, you know what? Companies stopped making games to sell in there. I got my intro to Stratomatic buying it at KB Toys. There was the Sporting News and the annual yearbooks, the Sporting News yearbooks, the Street and Smith's yearbooks, that you could find the ads for APA and Stratomatic there, and you could see those, and along with Lance Hafner games and Micro League, which is what got our feet wet into playing a sports simulation game. Okay, those magazines don't exist anymore, and Stratomatic does a great job in not marketing, and APA does a great job in not marketing, and the small 1 or 2 man operations don't market. You know how many videos there are for ballpark baseball on YouTube?
No, I don't.
Guess.
2?
1.
Oh.
And it was buried into someone else doing a video. How are you going to get out there to people who might be interested in your game if no one knows who the hell you are? I'm not picking on the Diggin Deep there because, that really was a one-person operation. And he got some things in there. I mean, if you're not talking, if you're not doing word of mouth, if you're not making the effort to say, hey, wait a minute, you think Steph Curry and that 73-win Warriors team should have won the title? Well, here you go. Here's your chance to replay it out. Here's your 7-game series against Cleveland, whether it's on a tabletop through Stratomatic or another basketball game, or it's on the computer. You can make the coaching decisions. You can't necessarily play, but you can sit there and go, yeah, okay, you can make this shot, or you can set this defense. To me, what needs to happen is, talked about a little bit already, there's no marketing in these games. There's millions and millions of card-playing players out there. All you got to do is walk around the mall on a Saturday morning or buy any of the game stores and look at all the kids playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And all the kids playing Pokemon and all the college kids playing Magic and spending the money in that. Your sports market's right there, but you got to market to them. And that's the job of the companies. You know who's going to be successful? Craig Wessel from ASLB, because he's got videos out there. Anthony Crooks, who's got his boxing game out there and a ton of videos on YouTube out there that he can point to so you can see how the game is played. Payoff Pitch, same deal. There's a ton of games out there for that. Is that the be-all, cure-all? No. But if you're not going to market yourselves, if you're not going to get your name out there outside of your own 5 friends, then, yeah, you're not going to make it. And so, yes, it's imperative of Strat and APA to say, look, you can do this with our system, and you can do it on your phone, you can do it on the tabletop, you can do it on the computer, you can do it on cards and dice, you can do it on virtual dice. There are too many game companies right now.
But that's, as a consumer, that's not a terrible thing.
Well, no, it is and it isn't. Because if there's only, let's say, 1,000 slices of the proverbial sheet cake, and there's maybe no one's having more than 50 slices of the cake, or I'm not, if I like chocolate cake, you like vanilla cake, and I'm not trying the vanilla cake, then I'm not buying your stuff. I'm sticking to my stuff. And if someone says, Ron, the pudding in this vanilla cake is wonderful. I don't like pudding and I don't like vanilla cake. My chocolate cake's the best in the world. Blah. Then I'm not willing to try it. I mean, I'm simplifying something that's a very common theme about different games is that people kind of get provincial. And so I don't know if it saves there, but you've got your audience for the potential for a statistic-based game has never been bigger, and all you got to do is watch a football game on a Sunday afternoon for all the fantasy stuff that's scrolling across the screen. That's your market. right there. Produce a football game that is easy to play, and you have an unlimited market. I have brothers-in-law who spend money on those weekly fantasy games. They'll probably spend $100, $200, $300 on that over the course of a football season. That's your market. Go after it.
Now, do you think, as some people brought up, that we need to get it, the community developers need to start incorporating the mobile devices, the computers, and the things like that?
You have to. There will always be a subset who will want nothing to do with computers, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. I play a game that's pure cards and dice. I use the computer to do it, but it's not a computer game. I'm the one making all the decisions for it. And it's a solitaire thing, and it's not something you can go, honey, do you want to play the 67 Twins tonight? No, I want to go to bed. Put your game away. But there's always going to be that subset of people who work with computers all the time. They work with spreadsheets all the time. And they just want to sit down and go, I just want to be able to do this. And they have Stratomatic has a good system that you can manually enter stuff. So you can play cards and dice. You can play on the PC. You can roll your dice on your phone and just keep score, and just kind of a hybrid system. But again, we talked about this offline. You run a roller hockey league in Massachusetts. You're all a bunch of hockey nuts. And you said there's about, 130 players, 150 players in your league?
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
And how many have heard of Stratomatic?
I would say, we talked about that too. How many heard about it and how many play it?
How many heard?
I would probably say out of the 100, they're mostly younger guys because it is, a physical activity.
Right.
Well, we do have guys in the 50s. I would say out of the 150 people there, if I said 25 to 30 have heard about it.
Okay. And out of that, how many play?
Maybe 3.
Okay. That's the target audience. Softball leagues, hockey leagues, football leagues. That's who you should be targeting with that stuff. If millions of people still play D&D, and which is hard, is a role, which is a pure card or charts and dice game, as you know, and a very complex game, and hundreds of thousands play it and spend all the money on books and stuff, then the market's not dead. You just got to go get them. And
I think you make some good points about the marketing of it. And I know on a shoestring,
it's tougher for the small. What needs to happen, and I want to let you have your say, obviously, is that these smaller companies continue to need to get together and have someone else handle the marketing for them. Every time that I do a video or you do a video on our YouTube channels, or our dear friend Al Red Sox fan does a video for whatever it is that he's showing off, it is an unpaid infomercial for that product. And so people who may not have seen the Action PC line of sports, or the wrestling game, or the Digging Deep boxing, or the Glory Days boxing, is getting exposure to that. I know that I have sold copies of Action PC football and baseball based on the reaction to my videos that may not have heard of the game or weren't sure about the game. That's not to pat myself in the back. That's not why I'm saying that. But it's a case of, if you tell people that something is out there, they may try it. They may not like it. It may sit in the closet. But it's better than saying, we tried this 30 years ago and it's not there. And so it really is incumbent on companies to figure out how they want to market, and for the bigger companies such as Strat and Napa to sit there and go, how do we make ourselves relevant? You got to get your name out there. In a world of a gazillion products, there are lots of people like you who say, I don't want to hit 9 buttons to make a pass. I just want to play a simple football game. How do we market that to you? I guess that's, and if you choose not to do that, then the tabletop thing will go away like butchers and telephone repair companies. But it's not going to be a big part of the equation. But I don't see a difference personally between how you play as long as you play.
Well, you brought up some good points there, as well as the people in the comments brought up some great points. And
great comments, by the way.
It was, and again, even though some people disagreed on some things, some people the sky has fallen. Some people thought everything was fine. Some people, again, we'll have to do a whole nother show on solitaire play versus head-to-head play, because there was a lot more comments I had, but they were all kind of gearing towards that, and I wanted to kind of keep this on track with the future of the gaming thing. But you make a good point about the marketing thing, and some of these small games don't even have websites. You got to email the person, and that's really difficult nowadays because you want to at least see something. You go to a web page, you get an idea of what it costs, and you can see a picture of the card or something. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, you know what I mean? Or get somebody up on social media to do videos. Like I said, Craig Wessel is doing videos, and I think Tim Plum was another one that's doing a video on his solitaire football game, I think it was.
And you sold a handful of copies of Shootout Hockey, just demonstrating it on your channel.
Yeah, I get up there doing some shootout hockey. I played a bunch of it. Like yourself, I played a lot of games, and people contacted me and like, "What is this game? Where can I find it?" And I know that some of the games that I've done, I've sold some copies. Not obviously I don't make money at it, but I mean, yes, people see you playing, and then they go and they want to play the game themselves. But that's what I did. I mean, how many Al Wilson videos did I watch, and DDSP commish videos did I watch, and Peter Miller videos did I watch? Of them playing these Downey games. That's how I learned to play most of these games, is watching them. I watch them play, and then I look at the instructions. It all makes sense now because I saw somebody playing it. So that's what I'm trying to do on my channel, is play the games that maybe people haven't heard of, because I'm enjoying them, and I want to share my experience with them, and maybe help them play the game and learn how to play the game. But I think it's important to put up a YouTube video is really, it's not that difficult, and it's really not expensive. It's practically free, as long as you have some kind of a cell phone to record it. And then that's how you can show off your game. And there are some companies that do that really well, and there's some companies, again, that don't do anything like that. And so you make a good point about marketing, and you don't need to have billboards. You don't need to have,
exactly.
ads on the Super Bowl. I mean, for some of these games.
Oh, God, no.
But, I mean, you can hit up certain – I mean, even, a channel like yours or some of these other channels that are doing these games, they could say, hey, let me send you the new game. Do a couple of videos on it for me. There's ways you could get around and do that. So, yeah, I think the exposure is not there for some of these games, because I am still finding new games every day and new developers and new ways to play. And this is like, wow, I can't believe how many games are, especially the baseball. There's so many baseball games out there. But, and then the other point you made about, what was the other thing you said about hitting the target audience there? I mean, how do you do that? And I think mobile phones are the way to go. You have to have some kind of digital platform going on here, because you're not going to see a lot of these younger kids, whether they're in their 20s, 30s, or even I call younger kids in their 40s now. They're not going to sit down and whip out a board game, to play a sports sim. They need to have some sort of a companion app or something like that.
Well, it needs to be something that you can do and save while you're trying to kill time, waiting for a plane or a train. Let's say you got a 2-hour layover and you're by yourself. That would be the time where you're not going to whip out cards and dice and sit on the table, but you can whip out your phone and play a series or a football game or whatever, and just kind of continue that. I mean, that's a sort of thing where if you're stuck at the beach and your kids are being a pain in the rump, and something that you can put down and pick back up again. It's kind of like the same thing as reading a book. And, as much as we think that e-readers have put books out of business, the death of the paperback is greatly exaggerated. That's the audience that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, I mean, I still buy books, but I also buy ebooks. I mean, there's something to be said that, I'll finish a book and I want to read another one that night, let's say, and I can just buy it right online. I don't have to wait for shipping or go to the store the next day. I can start reading it that night. And some of these games that offer the PDF versions, whether it's the seasons or the game, that's huge. Like when I'm done recording the show here, there's a couple of football games I'm looking at that I want to try, and I'm going to go and I'm going to have the PDF, emailed to me, and I'll be playing this afternoon. And I like that. I like that I don't have to go to the store or wait for the shipping. So, but there's some games, like I said, like the the All-Star lineup baseball game that I might order and want to wait to get the board and the dice and the cards on that. So I think to have that option between the two is huge. I really do. And as far as marketing the whole bit, a lot of people reference the play.com guys.
Keith and his son are incredible.
They are doing it. I don't want to say doing it the right way because that's going to make other people sound like they're doing it the wrong way. But I think
they understand the market.
What they're doing is they have the games out where I think you actually have to buy the physical game. Okay, but they're not just typical game. I mean, I don't have one yet. I do plan on getting at least the hockey game, I think, or that new football game. They're coming out. They have this football game. I think it's called Second Season, Ron. And they were just showing off a new quick play way to play Second Season. And I hope I'm not wrong in Second Season to call the name of the play game. I'm kind of going off the top of my head here. But they have a new quick play version of their game. And I wanted to get them on the show to talk about that, actually, too. That'd be a good guest to have. But they are doing it the right way. I mean, they're constantly doing videos. They're constantly promoting the game. They're on Facebook, okay? And they realize that some people don't want to spend an hour and a half playing a football game. And so they've come up with a way to play a game quicker. And I
think that is going to – whoever comes up with a – hybrid football game that you can play in 30, 40 minutes is going to be hugely successful because football on the tabletop is really tough. And it's very tough to learn. And if you know that you're going to take 2.5, 3 hours the first couple times you play to get it right, you're by and large are never pulling that game out again.
Yeah, and that's the thing I notice about the football games is if you got to line up all the linemen and all the cards, boy, that's 22 cards on the table at a time. That's a pretty good-sized footprint there. And I'm liking the games like the game-winning drive and the momentum football where it's a team card and some of the or they have some of the the quarterbacks and running backs and receivers on there. You know what I mean? So, but it's not all individual cards on there. So I do like some of those games. So I think they do play a little bit quicker though. So anyway, we're coming up on about an hour now. We wanted to read as many comments as we could and get our thoughts on that. Thank
you so much for all the comments that you did give us. They were a good, well-rounded discussion and a lot of good points. A lot of good points, I think, given by a lot of people.
Yeah, there was. And, we might not agree with them all. And obviously not everybody's going to agree with everybody. But
it's not important that we agree with them. It's important that everyone gets their opinions out on the table. The right company will figure out a combination of all that and surprise us. As for any kind of small niche type hobby, it's going to be the users and the manufacturers that come together to say, okay, if it's still important for you to have this in I roll the dice and read off the cards, we got to work together, man, or else it won't happen.
And I like having the options, like you talk about shootout hockey. You can roll dice and look at charts, or you can flip a fast action card, or you can have a combination of the two. And I use a combination of the two. My games go fast, they're fun, and they're accurate, and I enjoy it. And I think that's the way to go. Is you need to offer a long play game as well as a quick play version of your game as well. And I think some of the bigger games do that. They have the basic, and then they have the advanced and the super advanced. And so I think that's the way to go. You got to incorporate some mobile. You got to incorporate some computer stuff as well. And I think that might determine the fate of things here. So anyway, that we'll wrap things up here.
Give the number.
Yeah, here we go. We're gonna fade out with our music. Here we go. So this is the Digital to Dice podcast. You can find us at digitaltodice.com. A number you can send us a text to is 978 978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/groups/digital-to-dice if you'd like to join us. And again, Ron, thanks for coming on today.
Hey, my pleasure, Dave.
And I want to thank everybody that sent us a comment, whether privately or left one on the forums. Thank you so much, and hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.